Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're so glad that you're back with us today. Who do you believe? A he said, she said story. Let me tell you, this ABC thing, this...
what do you call it?
I don't even know. It's like a docudrama, sort of. I don't know. There's documentary style reenactments.
Yes.
It is not good. I'm going to
You
start...
don't like it?
Oh, I didn't say that.
Oh.
I said it's not good.
Okay, tell me more. Tell me more about this.
It's not good, but I could not stop watching it. I finally understand some of the appeal of reality television shows for people.
Yes, I can. Wow. Yeah, this is a bridge. If you don't do reality,
Which I don't typically care for, because a lot of times you can tell it's scripted and it's, they're trying to pretend that it's all just happening organically, and it's obviously not.
Right.
And this is like the bridge between that.
Yeah, because it is just an interview. So there's that documentary sort of interview, open-ended, but sort of also making sure we cover the bases. Of course, it's edited.
Yes.
So I thought they did a really good job of kind of doing a poor light on one and then doing the poor light on the other.
Okay.
I thought it was actually fairly equal.
Okay.
I thought it would be a lot more heavy-handed.
Okay.
But it was
That's
not.
fair.
So maybe it is heavy-handed, but it was less so than I thought.
Okay. That's super fair. The first one, it's overwhelming charity. This is the one that we're talking about.
Yes, it's set in Texas.
Set like 4 of the first 5 stories are all Texas, which I'm like, it makes me feel a little like Florida Man,
Right?
which makes me a little uncomfortable. But Texas is a big state.
We do have to remember that.
There are plenty of unhinged people.
Yes. And Texas is big enough that you could fit like a few Floridas.
This is true.
Right? So,
That's right.
we're bound
Or
to
like
have.
all of New England.
That's very true as
Yeah.
well. So, we're going to have a lot coming out of here, more than our
It
fair
seems-
share, I guess.
Yeah, that's how it feels. Anyway, but I thought that this one was maybe the least clear as to understanding who I really believed.
Okay, so you went on. You watched other episodes.
Oh, yes, I did.
You kept going.
Well, yes, because I watched this one. I sat down and wrote my notes and things. Yeah. And then it was like, well, I don't have to really pay that close of attention. So while I was cooking and doing other things, I watched more. And, ooh, you know what? I just ended up watching all the way through the end, all the episodes that are out.
Okay, I might have to. I did feel compelled to watch another one, which I was surprised. Because if y'all remember, I went into this going, I did not want to watch this show.
No.
But the docuseries approach did get me.
I mean,
it was like dissecting the aircraft crash.
Yes.
Which I kind of, airplanes,
yes,
whatever.
Exactly. It's that same kind of reality show
Yes,
where it's like, it's not a scripted thing. It's not purporting to do something that it's not. It really is a look in hindsight.
Yes. Putting the puzzle pieces back together to kind of figure it out.
Right.
Okay, so are we going to talk about this? Who do we believe? Who do you believe?
Sure, yes.
And who do I believe? Are we going to do that?
No, let's talk about it after the recap.
I'm nervous.
Okay.
Recap this and then I'll deal with my nerves.
Let me say, it's so bad that I really had a hard time even finding the name of the narrator. It's not on IMDb. Mia Bankston, her name appears finally at the very, very end of the credits, which if you're watching it on Hulu, you might not even get there because the next one will just start.
True.
And she's done some voiceover work. That's primarily what's on her IMDb. And then, everybody else is either docu-style footage of the people involved or reenactments where there's no audible vocals, like there's you don't hear the actors talking, and often their faces are not real.
Yeah, no, it's very shadowy.
Yeah, they're kind of shadowy, or their faces are a little blurry or whatever, so just so you can kind of get a sense of what happened. And
right.
Yeah. All right. You ready to recap this?
Just go. Yeah, go for it.
So Mark Athens and Charity Parcham had a whirlwind romance. They both loved that they were in the medical field, and this commonality was a passion for them. And they seemed to have common interests in other ways. They were devoted parents. They both had a checkered romantic past. They were interested in antiques and motorcycles. Mm-hmm. All of these things came up. But they both have their flaws. He's controlling and admits it. She's secretive and admits it. And their relationship fell apart pretty quickly. And each person blaming the other with either verifiable information, i.e., Charity wasn't a registered nurse. And at best, she had implied that.
Yes.
Even if she hadn't, she may have actually said it. It's really unclear as to whether she said that she was a registered nurse, but she's definitely not.
Definitely not.
Or there was some dubious information, like the idea that Mark might have been poisoning his bride, despite the fact that there was no verifiable toxicology whatsoever. So this first episode really does kind of leave it up to the audience, as some of these issues are still working their way through the courts.
Yeah,
even still.
That whole alimony issue is still in the courts.
Oh, we'll get there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would say of all the episodes that I watched, this is the one where I just didn't like either of them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't want to spend time with either one of these people.
Yeah, no.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for either one of them. I think Charity is a bigger liar than Mark is.
Okay, me too. I think Mark's not somebody I would be excited to be around, but I don't think he actually hid it, who he was and what he was wanting and looking for out of the relationship. He was very upfront about it.
Yes.
And I think she was a con artist because verifiably there's evidence that she's a con artist.
Yeah.
And so, and then, and I know we're going to talk about it later, and I cannot freaking wait to talk about this poisoning.
We are so going to talk about that.
Because did I have to pause it and go to Scholar and start reading some things because I had to verify what I thought I might know, and then I learned some more things. And so I just kept reading abstract after abstract, and then I finally got to some actual full articles that were free. And I'm like, ooh, I'm in it now.
So this show might be a replacement for another show. For years, ABC had a show called What Would You Do?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And the last time they aired that was in 2020. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a filler show. Like, we have time between, the spring endings. The spring seasons have ended. We've got some time in the summer we've got some time before summer, so shows start.
Yeah.
This is their filler show. And so TV series finale.com suggests that Who Do You Believe might be a replacement for that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a good evolution of the show, I think.
Yes, sure. Reality Blurred called this first episode basically Judge Judy without Judge Judy. I'm like, that hits the nail on the head. Like,
oh, that's really funny.
So hard, because it really is like the kind of arguing sorts of.
Yeah, of course, Judge Judy would have had some more direct questions, I think.
Well, for sure.
I did like watching the characters or the people involved here sort of reveal themselves the more they talked.
Yes.
It was great.
It really was. Andy Denart, who wrote this article for Reality Blurred, said, I was prepared to be apocalyptic about the show's irresponsibility, yet I was surprised, at least with the first episode. Instead of director or editors making accusations with their questions or editing, two people essentially got to accuse each other. Each volunteered to participate, which makes the whole exercise far less ethically problematic than typical true crime.
It's true.
And I'm like, yeah.
I thought that was actually a nice thing about this, is I didn't feel like it was exploitative at all.
Right. They're sitting there of their own volition. Yep. They didn't mention their children's names unless they had been given permission, because you could tell they each have number of children, and they only mentioned one child's name.
Right.
Even though another one was living at home with them when they were
together.
Right.
I thought they did a good job with that.
So I thought that was pretty good too. And then he commented on their set design, which I really appreciated, that they framed the interviews with one person on one side, one person on the other. Mm-hmm. And then the commonality was
the coffee table.
In the
middle.
No, it was for this one, it was fireplace.
Okay, that too.
There was a fireplace, and yes, there was a coffee table.
But each of them had a round coffee table. So when the pictures were side by side, you had the fireplace thing, and then you had like the round coffee table thing that was like,
Yes, and so when one faded into the other, you got this. I thought that was really effective and really good, and I totally agree with this. The writing is less artful, as the narration can be jarringly simplistic in its summaries. And I was like, that's super fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. And then Decider weighed in as well. I couldn't find, there's not enough reviews for Rotten Tomatoes to have an opinion on this yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess it's because it's a filler show.
It's just a filler show.
Decider thought that there was some more than subtle signs that producers were taking sides.
So I felt them, but then I would feel it shift a little.
Yeah.
And then kind of shift back. I could see them leading us a little bit.
I could see them leading us a little, but it's also like really the case is pretty compelling, I think, that Charity wasn't honest.
Right. That's the other thing.
So it's hard to know if it was us being led or just following the information.
That's the problem. Sometimes it's so easy to think that because there's two sides to the story, that those two sides are equally responsible, equally ethically responsible, and contributed at the same moral level. And that's not necessarily true.
No.
It's okay that one person sort of holds the majority of ethical responsibility in a situation.
Right.
It doesn't mean the other person didn't contribute something, but it's not always relative morality. Is just like, let me fight you.
Yes.
Let me fight you.
This is right. We don't need to give equal time to the information that's verifiably false. We just do not.
We don't.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't hold the same weight.
No.
And a claim that cannot be backed up does raise questions against claims that can be backed up. So, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. They thought the reenactments were cheesy. And I'm like, no cheesier than anything else, really. But without them, the episode would just consist of ping-ponging talking heads. And that would be as visually dynamic as a Yule log. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that's fair. Though I do put a Yule log on the television on Christmas generally.
It's true.
And Decider usually says to go ahead and stream it. And this is a big thing for me because I think this is the first time that I've read a stream it or skip it where they said skip it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is a filler show, like we said. But I could see why I skip it, But
if you just need something kind of mindless and really it'll make you feel better about your life.
Except that she's going through all that. And I really do like her fireplace.
I mean, I don't think it's her fireplace though.
Where are you? It's so pretty.
On a set.
I know, it's so pretty.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Is It True? Psychology Break and Real Life.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, an essay. We promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
Is it true? So both Charity and Mark claimed to trust until they were given a reason not to. And we talked a lot about trust last episode when we were talking about Blackbird.
Yes, we did.
And so I'll just say this. They both quoted Nicholas Sparks.
Wait. Hold on. I didn't hear it. Oh my God. What did they say?
So The Longest Ride, Nicholas Sparks, trust people until they give you a reason not to, and then never turn your back. They both quoted Nicholas Sparks.
Oh, good Lord.
And then the narrator had a quote. We already talked about how this was sort of simplistic narration, but it was a quote from early American philosophical theologian Jonathan Edwards. There are always two sides to every story. He lived in the 1700s, and yes.
Right. And he's not wrong. And something simple like that can be very profound,
sure.
And that's great. And there are two sides to every story. Fine. But wow, this Nicholas Sparks thing, that's funny. I mean, he's not a bad author. It's great summer reads, you know, but yes, you should be a little weary about your, well, okay, I digress. Please go on before I start saying other things. Oh, Lord.
I actually, when you're talking about a story, I prefer a quote from Robert Evans from his memoir, The Kid Stays in the Picture. There are three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. And no one is lying. Memories shared serve each differently. So your memories serve you differently. You remember things in ways that are beneficial to you.
Yes. You do. And memory is fallible.
And it's malleable.
Especially over time.
And the more you think about something, the more likely it is to change.
Yeah, which we think is the opposite, because the more we repeat it, the more we feel like we've got it. Because we feel like we memorize our story.
Right.
Which,
sometimes I do think maybe I should think about the things that make me sad in different context and try and change them.
You can kind of, but then it comes up with this ethical issue of lying to yourself, because if you change those memories, then you can't respond in the education they gave you to future, right? So if you've changed your memory about something that's happened in the past, then you can't readdress it and take accountability for consequences going forward.
Fine, I won't go back and read.
I'm a cynic with the reframing. I think because reframing can be so manipulative. Yeah. And I think reframing is really good. I think you should reframe things.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a better, more picture. But that's the thing. You can totally reframe it in order to cut, oh my gosh, did you ever get an eraser when you were a kid and you get your yearbook and you're like, I don't like that person. And you can literally erase their face. That could be considered reframing. Don't do that kind of reframing. Yeah. Right? Reframe it.
Damn it. Fine, I won't.
Oh, man.
So we see a dating profile for Charity on the screen.
Yeah.
It's like a reenactment. And it's Love or Lust is the dating website.
Mm-hmm. That's not the real website?
That's not the one they met on. Loveorlust.com is an actual dating website.
Oh, okay.
But it's only in Australia.
Oh.
And it doesn't look anything like the one that was on the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, which website did they actually meet on?
I don't know.
Oh, we don't know.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
I didn't see that.
But the fact that they chose Love or Lust
tells you a whole lot.
It does tell you a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because there are dating websites like eHarmony.
Yeah.
And then there are other
like Tinder
websites. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Grindr. Yeah.
Yep.
I watch enough television to know what these things are called. I don't have any experience with them myself. I don't know if you swipe left or right.
Well, and there's some others that have been around for a lot longer.
Oh.
You got the Ashley Madisons.
Oh, gosh.
Right. The Adult Friend Finder, which gets you into a whole different place. You've got some things out there, y'all. The internet. Woo.
Yeah.
It's a place. So.
It is a place. Mark took Charity to a flea market and took a large sum of money. Mm-hmm. Charity said it was about $10,000 in cash. Mark said that it was not more than $1,000 in cash. Either way, that's a lot of cash.
It is a lot of cash.
But he called it just round top. Mm-hmm. And that is a thing. So it's not exactly a flea market.
Okay.
It's more of a antique show. So if you go to Round Top, which is a city in Texas where this is typically held, they call it The Show. And it's been around since 1968, and they have it 3 times a year in the spring, fall, and the winter.
That kind of sounds fun.
let me tell you, there's one in late October, and I kind of did go look and see how much it would cost to get a hotel there.
Ooh, maybe Killer Fun goes on the road to Round Top.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know how that we justify that with this, but
I don't know. But it'll be fun. That's my justification.
That's right. It'll be
listeners. Tell us to go.
That's right.
Tell us to go.
Tickets are only like $10 to $25, and they last for the whole week.
Yes.
And I mean, let me tell you, my first thought was Christy and Jackie need a few days away.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And we've already decided money doesn't matter this year.
That's right.
Whatever.
So whatever. It's a free-for-all.
Mark kind of claims that it was a very whirlwind sort of romance, right? And yet he got her a custom engagement ring.
Yeah. I was kind of like, whirlwind romance sounds like a euphemism for something else. Mm-hmm. And I have ideas, but yeah, it didn't feel like a whirlwind romance to me. It felt more like an arrangement of sorts.
Sure. And he talked about her in terms that made me really kind of uncomfortable. He talked about how much he thought people would be jealous of him if she were by his side at parties.
Yeah. It's trophy wife. It's kind of what he was looking for.
Right. And somebody to help care for his son.
Yeah. And a mom for his son.
Yeah.
And then I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, that's why I say, I don't think that all arrangements are bad.
No.
I mean, arranged marriages have a whole history and,
and very often end up pretty happy.
Yeah. So it's interesting because, we tend to think that freedom to choose the one you love until we realize we really suck at that. And then arranged marriages, though, they are usually arranged with some sort of purpose and intention. And so it's like, setting a good goal. Right. Now, I'm not advocating for arranged marriages, y'all, especially, I know that it goes into like a bad place in certain areas.
It doesn't have to be, but yeah.
But it felt like an arrangement.
Yeah. Yes, it did. But I mean, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get a custom engagement ring, according to jewelry maker Frank Darling. They suggest 4 to 6 weeks or more to get it just right.
Yeah.
And, they also send, not everywhere does this. Some places can do it faster, but they send like a wax ring for you to be able to try on and make sure that it's right and it's comfortable and all this stuff. And I think that's very, sweet and whatever, but that's not a spur of the moment situation. If you've ordered this, and I mean, he had to have ordered it pretty soon into their relationship.
Yeah, because remind me how fast it was before.
So they met in April and then they got married in early August.
Yeah, he would have had to order it pretty soon. And the only reason I know about this, and this is not surprising, is because I have a ring that was my mom's that's, seen some life. But it's beautiful. So I have taken it to get a quote. And the only thing you can do is basically rebuild it.
Right.
Right. Take the stones and just rebuild it.
Right.
For 6 weeks. Because CAD, they have to actually design things in CAD. And then they have to actually print in metal the certain style of, whatever you call it. I don't do this for a living. The little things that hold the stones.
Yeah. The prongs.
Yes. This thing. And so, to get them just exactly right. And so 4 to 6 weeks, that's exactly what I was quoted.
Yeah.
And then a whole crap ton of money.
There. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And yes, not inexpensive. No. Because we bought my ring my husband bought my ring at a pawn shop because we were college students and poor. And we loved the idea of giving new life and also saving some money. And so my ring has been to the jeweler a number of times to either be resized or have the prongs that hold the diamond retipped. And I lost a diamond out of my wedding ring.
Yeah, that's one of the terms she used.
Yeah. So the little prongs get retipped every 3 or 4 years. And, I lost a diamond, so I had a diamond replaced. And, I mean, things happen.
But they do take time. Real jewelers, they want to take time with it and make sure that it's correct.
Well, it depends. The Venn diagram of fast, good, and cheap.
Right.
It really applies here.
That's so true.
Because I've had my ring done inexpensively and well, but my ring was gone for 35 days.
Yeah.
You know, I've had it done beautifully and expensively, and I had it back overnight.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I guess it does depend on what you're doing.
Right.
Like in my case, it's an older design. And so the prongs, where the stone is set,
right,
are unique, and they don't do them like that anymore.
Right.
But okay, wait, I have a question.
Sure.
I remember when I was in college. Now this has been a number of years, of course, but I remember that they used to do this kind of custom, and I mean I'm using air quotes here because it really wasn't custom. It was build your own, sort of like a build your own pizza.
Right.
So so he mentioned one thing, like he picked out the stones, and he was, choosy and careful about it. So there might be a difference between him custom designing, and him going to a jeweler and picking out the stones into a preset thing.
That's okay. So that's definitely possible.
Where then he could kind of do it quickly.
Right. Yeah. Where he picks out the stone and they say, okay, that will fit in one of these settings.
Right.
And then you can have it.
And then you can pick
days.
out these extra little gems to go around it.
Right.
They can be diamonds or rubies or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that was the case.
So maybe
he's thinking of that as a custom ring.
Because I think people would think of it because they chose it.
Right.
But it's not the same thing as like building one from scratch.
Right. Yeah. Where you have like an unusually shaped diamond. And so you have to build a ring around it.
Right.
Yeah. Sturgis wedding rallies.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty common.
I didn't realize it, but then when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, I bet that does happen there.
Yeah. About 100 couples every Sturgis rally, which happens annually in early August.
Whew, how about that? Mm-hmm. How about that?
Yep. So Sturgis weddings aren't dissimilar to Vegas weddings.
Okay.
You pay about $40 for a marriage license. You typically have to pay that in cash, and they have a number of places you can go in Sturgis in order to be able to obtain your license.
Okay.
And there is no blood test and no waiting period. So I know in Texas, there's like a 3-day waiting period. You can get your license. You can't get married for 3 days. It expires after 30 days. It expires in Sturgis after 20 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So as long as you have an officiant and you have your license, immediately after getting your license, you can go and get married.
Wow.
And
okay.
it's
all right. So
no problem.
Vegas.
Yeah.
But there.
Right.
Sturgis.
Yeah. And then you do have to return your license within 10 days after your marriage to have it registered.
Right.
Another point of contention between Mark and Charity was how much money she spent.
Oh, yeah.
Mark complained that she spent $1,000 a week. And then Charity said most of that was actually household expenses.
Yeah. Didn't he use the word allowance?
Yes, he did. I don't like him.
An allowance of $1,000 a week?
That seems like a lot of money
to really
allow.
Did.
But if you're...
But an allowance for a wife? Wait.
Oh, that happens a lot.
I know it does. But it still makes me mad.
I know.
But on the other hand, well, $1,000? Well, that does sweeten the pot, doesn't it?
I mean...
I hate that I love that.
I get to spend $52,000 a year. Well, let me tell you, if what you're spending it on is household expenses, that's actually not a out of the realm situation for cost of living in Texas.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you're going to go, well, I was about to say high end, but I mean, I guess if you're not going to be on a super budget, you could spend that much on quote just household, but it's going to be pretty awesome household. Like your groceries are going to look different than my groceries.
Right. Sure.
The brands are going to look different and the choices may look different.
Sure.
And,
Right.
The household items may be different. So, I feel like you could say that, but also on the other hand, you could be like, all right, but you don't have to spend it that much on it.
You don't. But I mean, I'm thinking you pay the mortgage.
Oh, you thought that? Do you think maybe
I
that
I don't know if she was paying the mortgage or not, but I can understand that they had a special needs child.
See, that's
who might
the thing
have needs special particular items.
See, we don't have an itemized. We don't know what's included in her allowance stuff, and then what she says is household items.
Right.
Because allowance to me says he's just giving her that money.
Yeah, to spend as she will.
Yeah.
And she said that she would have to call him with an almost to the penny grocery bill.
So that he could reload her card.
So he could load the money on her card.
Which, oh my gosh. But then he said that's because she was out there
spending a lot of money.
And that this was one
right.
So it was hard because it's like, well, are you controlling or are you responding to something and going, oh my gosh, something's not right?
And he's being controlling because something wasn't right.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. But cost of living, upnest.com has a cost of living for Texas, and it's generally about 6% less than the national average.
Okay.
To live in Texas, so it is a little less expensive to live here. But, if you have a sole provider for a family of 3, so spouses and a child, you would probably need about $58,000 to meet your needs.
Right.
A little more than that if you're a single parent, because you'll probably need childcare.
Yeah. Well, and if you have 2 working parents,
right,
then that becomes that juggle,
right,
of childcare versus,
right,
someone's dreams.
Yes,
whatever.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
Yeah,
because numbers come up against like the dreams of 2 working people.
Right.
Gosh, it's hard stuff.
So Mark said that Charity got the full mommy makeover and it cost $26,000. And that's maybe a little more expensive than average.
Okay, I was wondering about this.
I looked a lot of different places and there were some different ranges. Some of them ranged from $10,000 to $20,000, some $10,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on what you're having done. But according to West Michigan Plastic Surgery, you can typically expect between $9,000 and $20,000, and that's going to be
that's a large range.
Well, because it depends.
Really depends.
Breast augmentation. Are you having implants and a lift, or one or the other? What do you need as far as a tummy tuck goes? They always recommend that you wait until you're completely done having children before you have your mommy makeover.
Oh, how do we like that term?
I don't like it at all.
And yet, on the other hand, do I want one? Yes. I'm very conflicted today because I don't like the idea that mommies have to get a makeover to be back to normal, whereas dad bought it like super cool.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, here I sit, I'm like, you know what though?
Yeah, you wouldn't mind having...
I wouldn't mind some things done.
Yeah.
To kind of...
Well, and I don't... maybe mommy makeover isn't the good term for it. Maybe it's just to make you feel comfortable in your skin. And like that's fine.
Healing makeover where you go back and you fix all the things that were like stretched out and broken.
Yeah.
Like a tailor.
Oh, there you go.
Your shirt gets stretched out and torn. You go and or a dress or whatever. You got to go to the tailor.
That's interesting.
It's not going to catch on.
No, it's not. So Charity claimed that Mark was poisoning her with operating room staple sucks.
Oh my gosh.
The name of it.
Let us talk about this.
And it was implied that it was slipped into her food. And I would say no.
No.
Absolutely.
This is the most asinine thing I heard. When she said that, I looked at the screen like, did you really just say that? Like on TV? I was like, okay, let me go research to make sure I know what I know. And then I knew more after that, and I just laughed and then pressed play. And then I was like, it is
ridiculous.
Asinine.
I mean, absolutely. So cureus.com has a whole article, a paper written because it's underreported when there's
a sex poisoning.
When there's sex poisoning or even any like accidental ingestion of medications that are typically given either intravenously or intramuscularly. So with an injection of some kind.
It is true that sex poisoning happens accidentally, because it's also can be used by certain EMTs, like paramedics.
Sure.
And so between that and then getting to the hospital and getting to the OR or just an emergency situation, dosages can... I mean, there's just more risk involved when you're in that kind of situation.
Right.
But like Sucks is like giant. It's not like strychnine or like rat poisoning or gasoline in your coffee. It doesn't work that way. Like she would be dead.
Yeah. It doesn't build up. It's not a build up sort of situation.
It's there and it's gone, and it affects your lungs. And so all of her things that she said, I was like, you would be dead.
Yes.
If you had Sucks poisoning, we would not have this show.
If she had been poisoned by succinylcholine, she would not be alive to be telling this story.
You can't drip a little bit of it.
No. That's not how this works. So there was a patient who was undergoing treatment for mental illness, and he was a psychiatric patient, and he was waiting for electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, and he was in the procedure room and seemed to be compliant while they were waiting. And he grabbed himself a bottle of succinylcholine and drank it.
Oh my God.
And so they were, of course, the nurses are right there, and he grabs it, pulls the lid off, drinks it before they can catch him.
Oh my God.
I mean, even though they're like right next to him.
Oh, but it's so hard.
I mean, it's so hard.
It takes seconds to realize like what's happening here.
Yes, exactly. And, it was gone. Yeah. So, this is a fairly large dose, larger than they would have given him in his IV or intramuscularly. Mm-hmm. And so they watched him. And after 5 minutes, he had a little numbness in his extremities, like in his toes. It lasted for about a minute, and there was no unreasonable loss in blood pressure. His oxygen levels never went down.
Because that would be the first thing if it was like a super overdose.
Well, and that's exactly what they were worried about. But because it was ingested orally,
he didn't get the full effect.
He basically had almost no effect.
So, wow.
So she's...
So not only had it been actual Sucks poisoning, she'd be dead.
Yes.
But also taking it orally would not have...
It's not a buildup of something here.
Yeah, it wouldn't have done the thing.
Like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the suggestion that Mark probably poisoned his first wife.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, no. Because let me tell you, Kelly Athens Levasseur, in her obituary, not only does it say she's remarried at this point, so how would Mark have access to poison her without having her husband know about it? But he's listed as the father of her children in her obituary. I mean, they were on good terms.
Yeah.
Good enough terms that she listed him as the father of her children, as a surviving member of her family.
Right. Like, come on now. Come on, guys.
Now, I don't know how she died. I tried to look.
Yeah, he said some things, and obviously that was supposed to be kind of private, and then he kind of opened up about it, and it sounds like it wasn't an all clean situation. Maybe
no, but there doesn't seem like
he didn't poison her with Sucks.
No, certainly not. It's just
no.
So Charity definitely was a bigamist.
Yeah,
verifiable. The Cinemaholic lays it out very nicely for us. It also came to light that Charity had been married at least 3 times in the past before Mark, but the investigators only found records of 1 divorce. It was revealed that in November 1999, Charity married Bart Parcham, whom she divorced in February of 2002. The same month, in fact, the actual next day on Valentine's Day, she married Trevor Hendry. That marriage ended within a year, but they never got divorced. And 4 years later, Charity remarried Bart.
No, that girl is crazy. And I don't like to say that lightly, but no, con. It was a con.
Yes. 100. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that Bart moved into her house.
Oh, yeah. That's why I feel like it was an arrangement.
Uh-huh.
And she wasn't being upfront honest about the arrangement. And so I feel like that's where it goes awry. And, yeah.
Yeah.
it was a con because she knows what the men on that website were looking to do.
Right. Exactly. Mark is still trying to get his spousal support payments completely discontinued. So he did make a couple of payments.
Yeah.
And then a judge in January of 2020 ordered him to pay. He paid a couple, then went to jail for 5 days for refusing to pay. And in March of 2020, after he got out of jail, he did get an emergency stay in that case. So he has not been paying her, and is basically the blessing of the court while they continue to litigate this, which of course costs more money.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous because the judge completely ignored the fact that South Dakota nullified the marriage.
Yeah.
Because she was nullified because she was already married.
Like it doesn't exist.
Yes.
You know what I found interesting about this was that she mentioned that the second payment had final payment written in the menu. Menu? No. In the what do you?
The note.
Memo.
The memo.
Not the menu. I'm hungry.
Oh.
Apparently. Okay, so in the memo, it was written final payment. Now, my mom always told me this, and I don't know if it's verifiable. I've never looked it up. But if you write final payment and the person cashes it, it's an agreement that that's the end of it.
What?
And I don't know if that maybe just used to be true or if it was a norm or if it's a law, but I wondered why he wrote it on there. Because if he was just, it's like he didn't just stop paying. He literally wrote it in there.
Yeah.
And it was notable enough that she mentioned that.
Yeah.
So my question was, did she not cash it and took him to court?
Oh,
because had she cashed it, she would have been agreeing to his final payment. I don't know. I may have to dive into that because that was something my mom always told me. And I don't know if it's true. I mean, I tend to think that she didn't know what was going on because she was uber smart.
Right.
So I don't know. All right, listeners, you have to comment.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know stuff, please comment and link to it. Help us out.
Yeah. Help me out.
Yeah.
I got
Christy out.
I got a lot going on this week.
She just do some sleuthing for us. All right.
All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. Psychology break. So Mark and Charity were looking for traits and values that they had in common. And this might actually be a mistake.
Ooh, do tell.
The Atlantic, the common dating strategy that's totally wrong. Arthur C. Brooks, if you're looking for romance, stop focusing on what you and your date have in common. I was like, okay, so they have some sad statistics about marriage and sex and dating and how it's changed as opposed to back when we got married and, people who are not yet married now and young people. I'm not going to go over those because they're sad. He says, the way people look for their perfect match is all wrong. Modern daters and the tools they often use to find one another rely excessively on making sure a potential mate is similar to them. By doing this, they ignore what matters more for romance, that the person has differences that complement them. Now, that's different than complementarianism,
yes,
which is a religious concept.
Right.
This is more about having varied interests that go together well and having different ideas that if you're different, but in ways that complement one another, an extrovert and an introvert, you're more likely to have a more fulfilling sort of relationship. And the aggressiveness with which the algorithms tend to do what's called homophily, which is match you up as based on what you have in common, is so aggressive that it's ignoring this, and that you tend to have people who are too similar and then they're either bored or they're so similar and then they fight. Yeah. And that it also ignores the biology of it all. So,
True.
you don't realize how much that is a factor. And that's not something that you can really find in an online dating site.
No.
Yeah.
You'd have to try it out IRL before you can figure that out, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, it's interesting because, we do need somebody who complements our weaknesses so that we can continue. But I think there's also a difference between looking for commonalities and interests and whatever versus a commonality of values.
Sure.
Like you do want to kind of match up in what you value and character, right?
Sure.
Like in honesty,
Yeah.
these kind of values, even a similar work ethic so that you're not, you don't end up with one person feeling like they're pulling all the weight.
Sure.
Like these kind of things, like, so values, okay, match them up.
Match them up.
Have some, but your interests, even your personality traits and all of that.
Right.
Because you know what? I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're going to change.
Yeah.
They're going to change.
Yeah.
That thing that you thought was similar about you, that could change.
Right.
My husband plays golf now.
Yeah.
Do you know what we actually bonded over in dating?
The golf was silly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We hated golf. Mm-hmm. We hated golf together, and now he's a golfer.
Yeah.
See, these things happen, y'all.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And they said that really it's fine to do some online dating, but also enlist your friends to help you on a blind date, because this is something that's really uncommon for young people now and is much more common for people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. That almost half of those people that they interviewed for the study said that they went on a blind date, and like less than a quarter have gone on blind dates for people 18 to 26.
Wow.
And the reason that it tends to work pretty well is because it's somebody who knows you both and has thought about whether your personalities might match up.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've had somebody actually like really thinking about it. So.
Yeah. And your friends can be a good gauge for even these people you find online.
Sure.
They can help you sort of.
Yeah, you go on a date with them and then, okay, now it's time to have a little party and invite your friends over. And if they say, I see some red flags here, then maybe that's something you should take into consideration.
Absolutely.
Yes. Quartz had an article, Toxic Relationship Habits Most People Think Are Normal. Let me tell you, reading this article, Mark and Charity had some toxic relationship traits. The relationship scorecard.
Oh, man.
Both of them were keeping this little mental tally of things they could use against one another.
Yeah, looking for ammo.
Yes.
People do that, and they do it without knowing they're doing it.
Yes, they do. And I think they knew what they were doing. Yeah.
Because it was an arrangement.
Right. Exactly. Passive-aggressive hint dropping.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Blaming your partner for your own emotions. Toxic. Displays of loving jealousy.
Oh, yes. That was definitely normalized in the 90s.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, where it was like we kind of felt more loved when our boyfriends or girlfriends would find themselves jealous because you're like, oh, look, you love me. And I think it's because if you're going from friends to something more, that jealousy is a cue.
Right.
To, we're cueing a new season here, so there's something like, okay, why am I jealous of this? This is my friend. Oh, I like him. What? That could be, so there's maybe a difference between that kind of cue coming up and going, hey, something's going on here versus like this idea that like, oh, look how much you love me because you're jealous. Nah.
Well, and it was almost like Mark was building that into the relationship.
He was.
Because he was totally like, I want people to be jealous of me because I'm here at a party with her, which also means he's going to get jealous
of everyone else looking at her.
Everyone looking at her and anyone who talks to her.
Yep.
That is red flag city.
Yep. Not good, y'all.
And buying the solution to relationship problems.
Oh, yeah.
So, if somebody does something wrong in a relationship, there's nothing wrong with buying them flowers or candy or a trinket to kind of smooth over things. But it seemed like Mark was very much a throw some money at it.
Yeah.
And Charity was very much take some money about it.
Like, don't appease people with those kinds of things. Like,
Right.
you know, and I mean, I can't talk about this without talking about Gottman and like the four horsemen, right? Like, you know, things like criticism. So criticism is actually like one of the number one things that kills a relationship.
Yeah.
Criticism. And it's learning how to share without criticism, but like, but contempt, that's like off the chain. Contempt is like a complete predictor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because to get to contempt, there's so much that has to happen.
Right.
For you to be contemptuous, you know? And so contempt is one of those four horsemen that, you know, and they were critical of one another for sure, but they were so contemptuous. They looked down with disgust at each other. Mm-hmm. They really did. And that was like, okay, well, yep. I'm not surprised.
No, me either.
This is where we're at.
Well, and the fact that they were both married and sometimes divorced several times. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, that's a predictor. I hate to say it, but the more times you're married and divorced, or ended a relationship without a divorce in some cases, whatever, you know, it's a predictor of, because you're not coming into a relationship fresh, you always bring some baggage with you. And the more relationships you've had that failed, the more baggage you're bringing in.
Right. Which means if you've been in relationships and they failed, if you've been divorced, it's just that whole statistic is just a warning sign that there's a lot of work to do before the next marriage.
Right. And most people don't
people don't. And that's what the statistics kind of represent, is that people tend to not do the work figuring out why the marriage failed.
Right. Well, and they just blame the other person.
They blame the other person.
Yeah.
And even if you blame the other person, at least know what you're blaming and don't do it again.
Right.
Don't marry the same person.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Like get it. If you're going to blame the other person so badly, like, oh my gosh, I was conned, then figure out what happened there and learn your lesson. But like, there's just so much work to do in between.
Right.
And unfortunately, people don't. So it's a predictor that it doesn't work out well, which is sad.
Real life.
Hit me.
All right. So Mark wore scrubs on their first date.
Yeah, he did.
Now, letsgetgoing.com lists that as a first date red flag.
Really?
Well, workwear.
I'm floored. I actually thought it was adorable. Okay, tell me why it's a red flag.
I thought it was gross. So, workwear. Don't show up in your first date in the clothes you wear to work. Whether it's a suit, scrubs, or construction gear, show a little consideration for your date. Go home, take a shower, freshen up. And if you absolutely can't, make sure you let your date know in advance, or at least prepare ahead of time with some fresh body or face wipes. Okay, so he was on call.
He was on call, so he couldn't be out of scrubs.
Okay.
Well, he could, but it would be far inconvenient.
We'll get that. Next.
Oh, you have things.
Oh, I
You have things about this.
do.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, I think he wore scrubs not because he had to, but because it advertised something.
Well,
That he was wealthy in the medical fields and important.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's why he wore it. He didn't wear it for reasons, because they went out to eat. And let me tell you, Stitch Lab LA, which sells scrubs, even says, don't wear your scrubs like that out in public, because especially if you're going to be working in an operating room, because you're going to get them dirty. You're going to have to go and change anyway, because when you've been out in public like that, your scrubs are no longer clean enough to go and work with immunocompromised patients or in an operating room.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It's gross. No.
Okay,
because
but
if you spill food on it, or you're just out and somebody coughs on you, and I mean, I know that there are a lot of things that don't live on fabrics.
Well, yeah.
I understand that, but
usually they put things there. You have to wear the PPE when you go in the OR. So your regular, like, I'm at work scrubs are not your OR scrubs anyways. And that's where he worked. So, you know, I get that, but I see people out in their scrubs all the time, so I'm kind of like, well, I get it, but it's also, but see, okay, here's one thing. All right. What do we think though about the fact that she had advertised that she was in healthcare, right? As you said, at best, she implied she was an RN.
Right.
He thought this was going to be a point of commonality.
Right.
That she would find that to be adorable and kind of also solidify the fact that he is who he says he is. And, that she would think that's cute because they had bonded over the healthcare thing. So I guess, I don't know.
I thought it was gross.
You thought it was gross?
No. I don't want to sit next to a person in a restaurant wearing scrubs because I don't know if it's before or after work. Mm-hmm. It's one thing if it's like in a fast food place picking something up. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. But at a restaurant, no, I don't want to sit next to you in your scrubs.
Okay.
And if you're my doctor, I don't want you to have sat in a restaurant in your scrubs and then come talk to me.
Okay. All right.
No, it's gross. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Okay.
I feel strongly about this.
You feel strongly about this.
Yeah.
You know why it might not be so weird as being in the military. You know how many times you go and they're in uniform because they can't get out of the monkey suit.
And you know what? And that I'm a lot more.
So maybe it didn't hit me as weird for the work clothes thing.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Like I just kind of made the leap that you were in scrubs, you were at work. That's just how it works because that's the same.
I think it's
but
icky.
But killer points there.
Yeah. So Mark has tangled with the courts before.
Yes. Yeah.
Professionally. Back in 2015, he got sued because he went to work for a different company that provided surgical assistance.
Okay.
So he worked for one company that provided surgical assistance. He left to go to another one that was just starting, which he owns 5% of, by the way.
Okay.
Not only did that company provide surgical assistance at the same hospital where he was already providing services, but he asked employees to leave the job while he was still working there and come work with him. Oh. Now the court ended up, it's kind of icky, and they ended up siding with Mark and his associates.
Okay.
And they were granted a new trial, and then that ended up getting shut down by the Court of Appeals because there was overwhelming evidence that they said the jury didn't consider. Anyway, he came through it fine, but that's
a very common thing for some businesses, startups to get tangled in.
Yeah.
It's so common.
It is common.
Yeah. So I guess
that maybe shows a little ethical blurring, a little. But, that he didn't get found guilty. So, So you got to trust in our legal system sometimes.
Well, it's just such a common thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so not that I condone, stealing clients or stealing employees and poaching, but this does happen. New startups come in, and people who are qualified are excited about a new opportunity and know people in a small field. And it's very hard to draw the lines to say, yes, it's great. We'd love to have you. You should apply, without it looking like poaching.
Right.
But also you're kind of like, well, what are you going to say? You're not allowed to apply because I know you. No, you can't do that either.
No,
so it is sticky, but I don't know that
sticky came in because he was still working at this other place and encouraging other people at that workplace to
planning to go.
Right.
He was planning to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that gets a little weird, but
yeah.
I don't know.
So succinylcholine is a pretty much dream poison when it's not ingested.
Okay. Yeah.
So the person who wrote the article for MedGadget said it's basically a perfect murder weapon, and he is an anesthesiologist. His name doesn't appear on this, but so I think maybe he no longer writes for this particular place because this was an article from 2010, so it's been a while, so that's why I think his name's not on it, but he's an anesthesiologist who wrote this. And he said that the best poisons have three things in common: a small effective dose, ease of administration, and rapid and definitive action. And that is exactly what an injected succinylcholine injection will do.
And it disappears fast.
Yes, exactly.
It goes through, it does its thing, it's goodbye.
And what they do is they give it, and it's basically a muscle relaxer that will even stop breathing.
Yeah, it's a paralytic.
Yes.
Really. I mean,
exactly. And it's so that they can intubate you.
Yeah.
And not have you fighting back. Now, typically when they administer sucks, you've already undergone the anesthetic procedure, which will put you out. Mm-hmm. And then they give you this so that you don't jump involuntarily while they're doing the intubation. And it lasts between 5 and 10 minutes, which if you don't have breathing support, you will die.
You will die.
But it metabolizes super quickly. And the metabolites, what it breaks down to after your body metabolizes it, are all naturally occurring in your body already. So it's not, I'm sure that's what she used as an excuse to say that she didn't have the tests. I don't know. She said that her doctor tested her and showed that she had severe sucks poisoning.
That's the problem. Is that she claims that there's toxicology report. I'm like, at best, the enzyme that it breaks down to can be elevated in your urine and found as late as maybe 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, maybe. And there are a few people who don't break it down quite as quickly.
Right.
And therefore, you might still find some of the original substance.
Maybe,
but
but like
super
it's so
rare.
I mean, and it's just so fast, you know, and I mean, we're talking about grams, like milligrams, sorry, not grams, milligrams that are effective to kill you. I mean, it's just so small.
It's a, yes.
I mean, it's a small amount.
Yes. A very, very small amount. And you would have to have any sort of effect, you would have to have a extremely large dose in food.
Oh yeah, or you'd have to have it injected, and so
wouldn't he have gotten fired if he'd been found to be smuggling that much succinylcholine out of the OR? It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, this is a bad show, but I did really kind of love it. But then there are shows that people hate to love and love to hate.
That's true.
So, we're going to end on something a little more fun.
Okay.
BuzzFeed. TV shows people can't get enough of and popular shows that people hate.
Okay. All right. Hit me.
And I disagree with a lot of these. I'm just going to say that up front because I love these popular shows like The Office and Friends, and they said that they were hated.
Oh, whatever.
But they're basically saying like some people don't understand the appeal of them.
Yeah.
And like people loved Pretty Little Liars.
Oh yeah, they did.
I did up until the end. Up until the end. It was ridiculous. And then, people didn't like Gilmore Girls or Breaking Bad.
Gilmore Girls, come at me.
I know. Gilmore Girls is great.
You know what?
Breaking Bad is great.
People who don't like Gilmore Girls can't keep up with the dialogue.
Facts.
Quote me.
Facts. There's a lot of dialogue. And if you
can't keep up with the quick turnaround and the quick wit, yeah, then it's not going to be as endearing.
Exactly. And then The Good Place, people love to hate that. And I love The Good Place.
That was hysterical.
My husband didn't like it, but that's fine. Whatever. Grey's Anatomy is very popular.
Okay, I never watched it.
I couldn't get into it. I was not over ER when it started. I'm like, I can't dive into another medical drama right now. I just cannot. People love The Ghost Whisperer.
Oh, okay. I do.
Do you?
That is they nailed it. I absolutely love Ghost Whisperer.
Really?
I do. Every time it's on, I'm like, ooh. I don't ever put it on. I don't stream it. I like it, but if it's on TV, I'm like so excited because Jennifer Love Hewitt is just so endearing on screen because she just makes me happy. I don't care what she's doing. And I love her beautiful hair and how she just makes people happy and tries to find people healing. And it's so heartwarming. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I love it.
Well, that's good. People hated Modern Family. I don't know how anybody hates Modern Family. Do you not
I watched one episode and kind of really was a little like, okay.
Oh, I love it.
I think it's probably something I need to keep going with.
Yeah. Bunheads is one that people loved. Oh, so good. And I totally am on board with this because it did not last very long. It had Sutton Foster in it.
I don't remember this.
It was like on ABC Family or something like that. And it was just so like sweet and endearing kind of teenage show about ballet dancers.
Oh, how fun.
You would probably love it. And Sutton Foster is endearing in everything she does. If you haven't watched Younger.
I haven't watched Younger either.
You do yourself a favor.
Watch Younger?
Oh.
Okay. All right.
Oh, it's so good. It's soapy and fun. People loved Once Upon a Time.
You know what? I never really got into it, but I know others who really did. And it sounds like if you get into it, it is fun.
Yeah. You know what? I never got into that, but I did get into The Secret Life of the American Teenager, which is also bad, but I couldn't stop watching it.
Okay. I have not seen that either.
It's not good. It's not a good show. But it deals with some interesting themes.
And I could go. Okay. Yeah, that is intriguing to me.
And the teenagers are cute.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's like, 14-year-old got pregnant. That's bad.
That's bad.
But also kind of interesting.
Yeah, you want to know.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
All right, next time.
Well, speaking of speaking of bad, and you just kind of want to know, and like it's intriguing for all the wrong reasons, maybe. The next thing we're doing.
Okay, Lorena on Prime Video. Now, this is going to be definitely not one that the children can listen to because it is about Lorena and John Wayne Bobbitt and their story. There's a 4-episode series on Prime Video that we're going to check out the first episode of. And let me tell you, I watched a little bit of the first episode today just because I was really curious and I had a few minutes. And it's so good.
Oh, can't wait. Yeah, I'm glad you gave the warning.
They interview both of them.
I'm so excited. I'm so glad you gave the warning because I was thinking in my head, like, oh, we have to talk about something.
Yeah.
And if you are not familiar, give it a Google and you'll figure that out. But that's why it's not going to be a super family friendly episode because we're not going to get ugly and crass.
No.
But we can't talk about it without talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Certain parts of the male anatomy.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. We know you make a choice when you listen to us. We don't just come on the radio. Do tell a friend, and we'll be back at you in a couple weeks. Bum, bum, bum. Da, da, da.